Raqqa, BULA, BULA Vinaka. Vinaka nasema mai, BULA everyone, NOAIA. Vinaka for joining in. Vinaka vakalevu Sara. For those of you who are joining in today, it's a very special evening. It's, I think, Wednesday on that side of the world. It's Tuesday on this side of the dateline. So aloha from Hawaii, and greeting you all, those of you who are connecting in via Facebook today. Vinaka vakalevu Sara na rongoda na kalimolmolumu mena mai sota da Talanoa and sigo Vinaka nikua. It's been wonderful hosting various guests on this platform, and most of them are from the island, or beautiful island I should say, of Ratuma. And this is a lead up to the Ratuma Day, which is going to be held next week on the 13th of May. And so we have been so blessed to be hosting a lot of our Ratuman friends from last week. And then on Sunday, which is your Monday, we were able to Talanoa with Professor Wilson Hereniko. And then from his amazing storytelling, taking us back to Ratuma, we are very fortunate again today to be hosting a daughter of Ratuma that most of us know very well. She's a familiar face back in Fiji on lots of platforms that she has participated in. And also the music that we were just listening to. There is a music that is part of her group, Rako Pasefika. And so at this time, I would like to welcome our guest, Letila Mitchell. BULA Vinaka Letila.
NOAIA, MAURI, Tarisi. Aloha. Aloha to everybody. I'm here on Yagaran Turbo lands in Brisbane, in Meanjin in Australia. So it's very cold here, but nice to see your coconut trees and ocean, Tarisi.
Yes, Letila. Yeah, it's just been wonderful watching the work that you do, Letila. You know, everywhere you go. You know, when you go back to Fiji, I remember you hosted this Wasa Wasa festival, if I can recall, and the amazing work that you did in Fiji. And now you're in Australia, still moving and shaking a lot of things over there. So from all of us, from Fiji and Ratuma, we just want to say congratulations to you for championing a lot of this work that most of us find difficult, but to you, it's just A to B, and it's just so easy. You make it look so easy, but I know it's a lot of work behind the scene. But today we just want to welcome you to the Talanoa program, and to kickstart our Talanoa, Letila, if it's okay for you, just to tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your upbringing back in Fiji, and your connection to Ratuma.
Oh, NOAIA, MAURI. Yeah, thank you, Tarisi. It's such an honor always to be in these spaces and to share our stories. And really thank you to you for providing these incredible platforms to help keep us connected, especially in this terrible COVID time when we're separated from families and isolated. These connections are so important. But yeah, I'm from I have lots of mixed heritage. So I always call myself an ocean woman because, somehow I feel my family over the generations have voyaged from all sorts of different places. But my Rotuman side comes from LCE in Malha. And also I have connections into Itumuta and Nuatau. My kids have Oinafa blood and Tokoi blood, from the other side of the island. So I think we're really connected pretty much all around the island, some connection somewhere, always a cousin and an auntie in different villages. So yeah, so that's my Rotuman side, and I have connections to Madawata. Rotuma has really strong connections as well to Madawata. So the Wailevu connection there, and our Rotuman family also has a Samoan connection through our sort of one of our family names, Semantafa. So we found that connection over the last few years. And yeah, so it's interesting, and a lot of the work that I'm doing, you slowly start finding all sorts of connections around the world. Even recently on a project that I've been doing, finding connections to Banjalang land, which is like the North New South Wales, and Quandamuka land, which is Stradbroke, which is an island just off Brisbane. So lots of really yeah, so it's I feel I've been lucky in that my connections are very widespread, and so my network and my web continues to build as I work. But yeah, I grew up in Suva predominantly, or I was a Pacific Harbor girl. So grew up on the beach, running through the bush pretty much the first 10 years of my life. So always that ocean connection. So, in everything I do, there's a really strong connection to the ocean. So grew up in Pacific Harbor in Deyumba, just across the bridge, which is now a very fancy hotel. And then, eventually my parents and our family moved to Suva, which is where we grew up in Lami. So yeah, and grew up, paddling and canoeing and fishing and always in the water in some way, somehow. So I think that sparked a lot of my sort of arts and cultural connections, yeah.
Absolutely. And that Wasa Wasa festival that I mentioned earlier, what made you, what inspired you to organize that festival? I remember I was in New Zealand and I heard about this particular festival. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
At that time I had just completed my master's in cultural management in the UK. So I had just come back to Fiji and taken on the role as director of the Fiji Arts Council. And so one of the things that I saw that was really missing was a space where, heritage arts, contemporary arts, all different art forms could come together. But at that time also I was working very, very strongly with Pacific Concerns Resource Center, which was my first job. So my first job was, working in the oceans, indigenous rights, that sort of space. So on conservation and advocacy. And so, from my work with PCRC and Fiji Arts Council, I was also working quite strongly with Letila Mitchell, with Monifa Few, who's, a good friend and family, and also Sailasa Tora, who's, he's a brilliant musician. And so one of the songs that Sailasa composed when we were doing all of the vaka, the drua work and the canoe work, was Wasa Wasa. And so we'd always been having these conversations about the importance of our connection to land, to ocean, to sky. And so the festival was born out of all of these discussions of artists who were practicing, so working in that environmental space, but
Yeah.
also practicing artists, you know, so there was a really strong passion for conservation, for, you know, waste management, for how to connect our culture and our arts with, you know, how to take care and protect our land, because so many, you know, so many of us hadn't grown up on our traditional lands. We were all growing up in Suva, where,
Yeah.
you know, the pollution was, you know, really visible, and so all that was starting to happen. And the young people, at that time, I was young. I call myself, you know, I can call myself young at that time. So we were, you know, we were all in that space where we really wanted to kind of vocalize what our intentions were around that space, and, you know, our conservation and really that strong connection. Yeah, so the first one was at the Fiji Museum, and, you know, we brought together different environmental organizations with artists. You know, people like Craig Marlowe were making flowers out of plastic bottles, and, you know, so there was a lot of that really incredible work going on. So yeah, so that's what sort of sparked that inspiration, was giving that space on bringing together the environmental side, the cultural side, you know, and artists in that space.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was one
That's,
of my big sort of first projects at the Arts Council.
yeah, and I understand. Well, I kind of I can still envision Wasa Wasa, you know, to kind of like maybe an annual part of the program in Fiji. Do you feel that that can be something that can be pursued, so that, you know, that can be an event that everyone looks forward to at the end of the year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we ran it for 4 years, you know, so it was,
Wow.
uh, it was really successful, and it was a really great space for creating those conversations, and from it also there was a lot of other projects that spun out from it. It was
Wow.
also a really good way for us to bring international artists in. So like the first Wasa Wasa Festival, we had Michelle Ortiz, who is like an internationally renowned mural artist. So she does murals on massive buildings all around the world. So she came and was part of a program called Mama Hanua, which was about, you know, indigenous women engaging in their wisdom and traditional knowledge. And so she put a lot of their stories onto this huge sort of wall that we created, which now actually resides at the School of Nursing. So it's on their wall. So it was our way of, you know, giving courage and inspiration to, you know, the nurses, and who are, you know, they've got such a challenging job. And
Yeah.
so it was a really great way of bringing in those sort of artists to kind of generate exchange. We brought in a few festival directors. So Ole Maiava at the time was running Pasifika Festival in Auckland. So it was an opportunity for him to come and see what work was happening in Fiji, and, you know, what work he possibly could take. So from Wasa Wasa, we then took a delegation to the Pasifika Festival, and we had a full-scale exhibition and performances, and you know, so it was a really good platform to kind of, you know, give artists. Yeah, it's definitely something that's needed, because there's so much talent at home, you know, so much
Yeah.
talent, but the visibility is not, you know, not always there. So yeah, I'd love to see it off the
Yeah.
ground again. We've always talked about doing it again one day.
Yeah, Vinaka. I mean, I look forward to be part of it when I, you know, return home. I'd love to be, you know, maybe connecting to the museum and working with artists over there. Now, coming back to, you know, Rotuma, what is maybe like, this is kind of going down memory lane. Anything that you remembered when you were little, or anything that reminds you of Rotuma? Or anything about your childhood in Rotuma? Would you like to share anything like that to us?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, growing up, you know, we have a very close knit family, and you know, my dad and all of his first cousins, you know, the wider sort of Mitchell family, you know, we all grew up together, and, you know, the thing that I always remember is a lot of the storytelling, and, you know, a lot of the fun and the joy around dancing. So, you know, growing up, we went to Tomaka all the time, which was, you know, like usually the lead up to Ratuma Day was, you know, you had like a good few months of rehearsals every Saturday where the community came together. And, you know, so it was a really, really great space to, like, you know, gather with your cousins and meet other people too. And like a lot of times, you didn't know you had this auntie, and so it was always a time for to connect with the wider group. And so Auntie Fono, who's sort of like the matriarch, big boss of our family, so she'd take us to a lot of these tamaka, and she would be the one that sort of would tell us who's who and give us the breakdown of the genealogy, so that. And you always, now that I'm much older and I have my own kids, now I understand when they're like, oh, who's your mother? Who's your father? Who's your auntie? Who's your, oh, then you do all the connections, And so I like when you look back now as a much older person, you sort of like, oh, now I understand why she was doing all that, because, those connections are really important, because then you kind of know, who's who and how you connected to people. And so that sparked a lot of my my dance passion, I guess, was going to Tamaka on the Saturdays, and then during the Christmas period we'd go Farah with all of sort of the cousins in the Lami area up into the line of SC, and so that's when Hupfield heard all of us were all young, and in the back of Hupfield's father's Coca-Cola truck, and we'd go from house to house to house, and we'd all dance, so those memories are always like, really wonderful memories. And, the few times I've been back to the island too, I was always right in the middle of the Farah pack, dancing and, singing and leading, going with all my cousins dancing around the island. So yeah, really treasured memories, those times, especially with our, with our aunties and our elders. So yeah.
So wow, that is so beautiful, and I'm sure as you said, that kind of sort of maybe planted that seed for all your dance projects that you did over the years.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the Ratuman dance is such a unique dance, and like I know a lot of times as a young person, you were just like, oh, this is I just don't want to do this, because it's it takes time to learn the lyrics and to to learn the whole the whole dance. But as you get older, you really appreciate the beauty of the dance. And once I started traveling around the world with my work and started working in the international art scene, then you really start to understand how beautiful your own dance and your own culture is, and so over the years I've slowly started working with a lot of my family and trying to learn more about it, because there's so many of our art forms that we don't practice anymore, so it was definitely always a the connection that's there, that you always know you have to explore and know more about, but yeah, it's always been an important part of my career path.
So you reckon that some of the projects that you do are adding into the revitalization or the reviving of some of those ancient dances that are kind of either at risk or maybe close to being to kind of disappear?
Yeah, well, we in 2000, I think it's 2004, when I was with the Arts Council as well, I started working with Emotama Pene, Reverend Emotama Pene, who's he almost became like a grandfather to me. He's been a really core part of my creative career and my journey. And we worked together developing the Ratuman sort of program or delegation for the Festival of Pacific Arts in Palau. And so, he was such a visionary, and his wealth of knowledge was just so vast, but also his innovation, and the way that he wanted to tell stories through dance. And so I almost became like, he was the driver of the car, and, I followed with him and made happen what his vision was. I had all the creative and the artistic tools and the skills, and he had the cultural knowledge. So together we that's where that sort of journey developed. And he during the Palau, he wanted, we had this long conversation about how a lot of the other delegations were bringing back their old costumes and like were really focusing on natural resources and utilizing what was around them, rather and doing away with a lot of the modern sort of influences in costumes like fabric and so we really spent a lot of time together talking about how we could do that through the Ratuman delegation. And so he, we brought back a version of, in the old days, he said that there was a type of ape that was used for dance or ceremony, and so we brought back a version of that, because we didn't have the budget or the resources to be able to do apes for the whole delegation of 20. So we created a version of it that was still used with the pandanus from the island, that was still woven by our women. But it was natural, and and he wanted to bring back the mother of pearl breastplate, which they used to have. He remembers that they used to have that when he was young, but then over time, then he didn't see it anymore in the dances and in a lot of the ceremonies. So so we brought some of that back as well. And yeah, so it was a process of remembering and reimagining things, because we didn't have a lot of physical sort of artifacts to go off, like a lot of when we went into the museums, there was not a lot there from Ratuma, so there wasn't really anything that we could sort of get our hands on that could be a sample. So yeah, it was really beautiful process working with him all those years. Yeah.
That's really good. I'm glad. I think someone, Ravai Fatiaki, is saying that here the Pena brothers were legendary Rotuman musicians.
They were. Yeah, and I mean, before he passed, he gave me his last CD and said to us, "Oh, one day you're going to reproduce this and Rako is to re-sing this." So he, over the years, he gifted us so much. So pretty much the last 10 years of Rako, like Rako's existence, all of our dances and a lot of our music has been shaped by his compositions and his poetry, and even he would come and paint with me to just as a way of being inspired. And he used to say to me that in this creative space I feel free, so it was his creative space too. And what he didn't realize was how much he was giving us, like it was almost, he was nourishing all of us young people who were really like thirsty for knowledge and for guidance. And so he was really like an elder for our whole group, and for my kids too.
Yes, that's wonderful. I like what you said. It's remembering and reimagining. Wow, that is just so beautiful. It's sort of like you are, stepping from, one world into another, but there's that continuity, that cultural continuity. That's beautiful. And also when you were talking about your memories of Ratuma, it reminded me of what Professor Wilsoni was saying on Monday was, storytelling was a key part, right, of his upbringing. And again, you reiterated that today as well. And then for you, you went into dancing, and I know Wilsoni, if he's listening, or if he listened at a later recording, I remember when I came over to Hawaii as an exchange student, we actually formed a dance group in Honolulu. And so he used to come and join us when we were doing our practice. But again, as you said, the dancing was a way that you were able to connect to your past. And that is beautiful. And maybe mentioning about dancing and mentioning about the Pene brothers, or Reverend Pene, how can you connect that to Rako, your amazing group, and the music that we've just heard? And those of you who are listening, and those of you who have been watching my Ratuma episodes, the song that we've been playing in the beginning of my interviews are from Rako Pasefika, which is a group that Letila actually, she created the group. So over to you, my sister. Tell us how the seed of creating Rako came about.
Yeah, well, again, from the Palau Festival, and I think that was pretty much the catalyst for everything, because as part of that delegation team, there was Ematama Pene, there was Wilsoni Herniko, Manuel Wilsoni, there was like this huge wealth of cultural and creative knowledge and innovation. And so that time together, we really spent like talking about what we imagined we could do. So I came away from Palau thinking, oh, wow, what I just did with, the three of them and with the rest of the delegation. We had Sopapelu, Samisoni and Jane and like his wife, just this huge, incredible group of creative Rotumans that were all in this space. And I was just like so inspired. So we came away from the festival and I said to both Vili and to Reverend Pene, how can I continue this work? Like how, is there a way to do this? And I don't know if Vili remembers, but he was the one that said, oh, well, why don't you start up like a dance theater? Like, in the old, you would remember Manoa Rasingatali used to have the dance theater Fiji,
Fiji.
And I grew up in Pacific Harbor sitting on the duo when Manoa was taking us around, and I grew up in the cultural center. And so I was like, yeah, you're right, that's exactly what could happen. So we again, more conversations about what that could look like. And then Vili and Ematama both suggested the name Rako because it was it was a place of learning. So like Rako literally, it literally means school in Rotuman. But for us, it was like, okay, how can we create like a center or a space where it's a space of constant learning and relearning and, reimagining. And when you get knowledge, how can you then share it in a different way and express it in different ways? So we had this dream that it would be a safe space for young people who grew up with their Rotuman heritage or not, who grew up with language or not, but that they were creative, that they wanted to know, but also that it was a space that the elders felt that was a safe space for the elders to pass on knowledge to young people who actually wanted to know and wanted to care about that knowledge. So Ematama, he would say to me, I've always wanted to pass my knowledge on to other artists, but you got to always wait till you find the right ones who will take care of it and do something with it. So it was Rako became that space of working really intimately and really closely with elders who themselves were artists and that mightn't have had the platform to express themselves as well. And then a safe space for young people to learn about their culture more, to storytell, but also to have the creative license to innovate and to do things differently and to use some of their urban experiences and also be grounded in their sort of cultural knowledge. And for me, at the time I had a young son who was only 2. He's sitting next to me. He's now 20. And that tells you the length of time I've been working at this. So Yani, Yani was a product of Rako. He grew up in that Rako space. So he was immersed in that creativity and that knowledge. And, so that's really shaped him as a person. And I think a lot of the young people that went through Rako, have had that real shaping. And, it hasn't always been hard. And, of course, with anything, there's always crazy challenges. And but yeah, that was what the dream was. And it's still bubbling.
That is amazing. I think is he studying in Wellington? Is he doing dance?
Yeah. So he, can you join me? So he's right here sitting. He's
come. Look my. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's
come and join us. Congratulations. I've been watching when your mom shares your journey into dance in Wellington, and I understand the bubble between Australia and New Zealand is now open. So well done. I'm sure you guys can travel back and forth. So yeah, back to you, Letila.
Yeah, so again is we participated in the Pacific Dance Festival a couple of years ago, where we sort of premiered a work in progress called Cloaks of Protection. And so during that project and during a later residency that Yani did with Rako and with Pacific Dance Festival, he was spotted by the head of dance at New Zealand School of Dance. So she went backstage to him and said, "Oh, I want to train you." And so, you know, he got into the school without an audition and just was headhunted. And yeah, and then that began his journey last year. And he, you know, I did the real mother's thing and dropped him off at university and cried for 1 week and, you know, said goodbye to my son forever. And then 8 weeks later, we put him on a plane back here because of the COVID shutdown. So he's
Oh, I
back here.
see.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And how was the experience? Even knowing Yani, that you've been, as mom said, headhunted, and they saw the talent you have in terms of, dance. How did your interest in dance, kind of started for you? Because mom said you were like a little boy when you were, being part of Rako. Tell us, Yani.
Yeah, yes, as mom said, my interest for dance was definitely cultivated in Raqqa.
Wow.
Even when I first started, I never really wanted to do it. Like I just kind of did it because mom told me to.
Oh.
But then after months and months, and I started picking up things that I really enjoyed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then ever since then, that's when my interest for dance and the arts in general just kept building and building and building. Yeah, and the values and all the skills that I learned in Raqqa have carried me to where I am now in my career.
Wow.
Yeah, they've helped me out a lot in grounding me and influencing my creation, influencing my dance style. And I always get feedback from wherever my teachers are on my work ethic and my value system and the things that I use to carry myself and the way that I carry myself. And a lot of that I learned from Raqqa and being a part of the family in Raqqa and the things that my mom drilled into all of us. And
Oh, that is nice. I love that. That work ethic, and I like what you said. What your mother drilled, right? And that is that is amazing. That's what a leader, has to do in terms of, making sure that you have up and coming, dancers coming through Raqqa. What do you feel in terms of, what can you share with us, acknowledging your Ratuman heritage, Yani? How does that play into your world of dance?
I think it just gives me a sense of home and a sense of being grounded, because I know where I come from. I know where my bloodline lies. I know where my ties are. I have a place that I can always be connected to, and that allows me to venture out into the world and be confident because I know that I have a whole group of people supporting me, and I have the reputation of our culture, and I'm pushing that forward, as well as Rako's name being grown over the last couple of years. It's helped me to develop a sense of pride in my culture and a sense of pride in the company that I'm a part of and that I will always be a part of. And not being ashamed of where I came from and holding where I came from at the front of who I am.
Yes, that's very important. Yeah, definitely. What would be something you'd like to share to, young Rotumans or any young person listening in right now, in terms of their heritage and the importance of them, holding on to something that, is very special and unique. What would you like to say to them?
I think just always keeping in mind that that's who you are, and that and to not be afraid of doing things that might be out of the ordinary, because everything that you do in your life will contribute to your end goal and where you want to be. Every experience, whether it's bad or whether it's good, will always build up into something that you never thought it would be. I never thought that I'd be studying contemporary dance and doing ballet in New Zealand, but it happened.
Wow, look at that. See, you bring in the Rotuman flavor. Yani?
Always.
Always. No wonder, those people who are watching you perform, they saw, the talent you have, and, huge credit to, mom, and especially your whole family, for being the huge support for you, Yani. What is the future? What is the future of Yani? What does it look like?
Well, that's a big question.
I'm grooming him to take over Raqqa so I can rest.
There you go. See, mom needs to kind of retire. I hope we're gonna redefine the word retire, and Yani is gonna take over.
Yeah, retiring for me will just be sitting on a beach, painting and weaving and doing my food while he runs the company.
Wow, there you go, Yani. You are in good hands, and you have such amazing role models. Those of us who are outside of the family, we watch what Rako does and what mom does, and you are right there, and I can just picture mom crying for 1 week. Yes.
My first baby flying the nest. But
yes, but I'm sure it's so good for you to come back, Yani. Just to be close to mom. And I think also, with this COVID-19, we are doing things digitally. Is that something you are still doing, connecting back to the New Zealand School of Dance, even though you're back in Australia?
Initially, I was. I still keep in contact with all of my classmates.
Okay.
The people that I was dancing with. I did a term of the school that was online, which I did in our backyard over here.
Oh, okay.
But with regards to like the curriculum and stuff, I'm not actually engaging with it, but I still keep in regular contact with a lot of my classmates and other people that I meet.
Yes, all the very best to Yani. And I know, with Rako expanding and, developing to, an amazing school at the moment. It is amazing. I know it's going to be, much more achieved, in the coming months and years post-COVID-19. So we look forward, to see more of you, Yani, and the work you're going to contribute for Rako.
Yes, sir. For sure.
Yay! Vinaka Yani. Yes. And for you, Letila, I know there's the other Rako dancers in Fiji. Tell us about how your Rako group with Yani and you in Australia, how does it connect back home?
Yeah, well, usually, so the way we had planned it was that, Brisbane or Sydney was going to be sort of our international base, because before COVID hit, the team were touring very extensively. So we were pretty much out of the country for a good 6 months of the year. So, we'd be touring for a month, go home for a month, tour again. And so, Australia became one of our, key markets, I guess you can say, or key sort of touring places. And so it made sense to have a bit of a base here so that we could, start to develop the relationships here with, say, the Australian Arts Council, with other agencies, so that we could get funding and, and to develop the company further. So we set up a base here, and the team were like, would have a base here to rehearse and to develop their craft. And, and we did that 5 years ago. So usually what would happen was that, we would literally in Fiji at least every 8 weeks over the last 5 years. So, during the school term, we were here, and a lot of times the team were actually physically here with us. And then we would go back to Fiji during the holidays to then, continue training. And so that's sort of how we worked over the last 5 years. So Raqqa was really based over 2 places. We had a core studio in Fiji, and then we had a space here. And then 2018, we started developing a stronger relationship with the Pacific Dance Festival. And, Yani and I lived in New Zealand for quite a while. And so we have a really strong connection to the Ratuma community, particularly in Auckland. So the intention was in 2019 that we were going to then open up a New Zealand base. So we were opening up a studio and getting set up in Auckland. And so we were, starting to do those trips, and then COVID hit. So we got, stuck and isolated from our team who were in Fiji. So we got stuck here. And then we weren't able to continue the work in New Zealand. So in July, Yani and I traveled back to Auckland. So, we will start up those discussions again and hope that we can reestablish that setup base in Auckland. That we basically have three entities going, in the three spaces, so that it gives our young ones at home the opportunity to get, to tour and to get experience internationally. But also that it gives our Ratuman artists that are based internationally the opportunity to connect back home. So it's kind of like a two-way connection. And then over the last 2 years, Ngangach Tamanov has, taken on the role of elder and guardian within Raqqa. So, he's been helping to guide that connection back to the island. So over the last year and a half, our team has been traveling backwards and forwards to Ratuma as well to start trying that, developing that connection, and taking a lot of our young people back who've never been to the island or never, known how to reconnect back to the island. So we're keeping the work going in some way or form. When we were all in lockdown, we were rehearsing on Zoom, which was just this crazy experience. But but we somehow kept together and kept food on the table for everybody, which was the main intention over the last year. But yeah, so we're still chugging along.
Yes, no, it's just so good to see, the cultural performances, the music as well. It's kind of like seeing Rako branching off, in different, art fields, so you have the music and you have the dance. What other branches or what other fields of the arts is Rako a part of?
Yeah, well, when we first started up Raqqa, the intention was to do dance. So as we developed, we, of course, our people in the Pacific all have so many layers of talent, and it's all interconnected, So dance was connected into music, and then there was the costuming, and with the costuming comes the design side and the textiles and the fashion and the jewelry, so there's just all these, like dance was at the core, but of course it connects in with so many art forms. And so what we did in Raqqa was try to create that space where if I could see a particular skill of an artist, like I could see that they were like sketching in the corner, or somebody was trying to repair costumes that was a good weaver, then we enhanced that particular skill. But also what we were finding as well was that there was really high periods where we were touring extensively and the team were earning a good income. And then there was a big drop, when there were no festivals, so the income levels for the team were just too inconsistent. So we then started creating a fashion and a jewelry and a homeware line, so that low period that was a bridge income-wise for the team, because everyone works for does Raqqa full-time, and so we it was really important to try to find a way to make sure we were sustaining everyone financially, because we've got to put food on the table for families at the end of the day, and also so that families would give their young ones the support, because they were bringing money home and they were contributing. It made our team feel proud of themselves that they were earning an income from their craft, so yeah. And each sort of cycle of artists that come through have different skills. So some years there's a strong focus on music, some years is a bit of a mix of dance and music, other years we've had really strong like fashion and design side. But we've always just tried to create a really open platform for experimentation, innovation, and over the with COVID and being separated, we've now started branching into film, so which is another so we're working with an organization called Niatero, and so they're working with Rako to create like a full feature film on our journey and our stories and our connection. So we've been working on that for the last 6 months, and yeah, hope to open that film in the maybe sometime next year.
Yeah, that is amazing. Man, just look at what the Rotumans are doing. I mean, I just heard Professor Wilsoni saying on Monday, you know, there's not one, not two. I think he's working on 4 films,
Yeah.
you know, even during this COVID time. And look at Rako. I think there's something in the water in Rotuma, my sister.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's in the Fike and the Taroro for sure. And as he said, in the biscuit.
Definitely the biscuit. Yeah, the biscuit has some magical powers. So wow, no, just amazing. We just look forward to see what Rako is going to do. I really like what Rako has done. You know, when you were saying earlier that Rako has taken some of the young Ratuman dancers who may not have been to Ratuma, and I remember talking to Sachiko Soro for Vo. They also did the same thing. The Sachiko and Eddie, worked with the young dancers and saying, okay, where are you from? I'm from Televu. Where are you from? I'm from Kandavu. And so they sat and talked about with the artists and dancers that they have to go back to where, they come from. That is just so beautiful to see that reconnection, happening. How does that now impact on some of your dances for Rako, Letila?
Yeah, I think, for us, it was, our young people, and, I see firsthand with these young ones how much of a challenging life that they have. When I was, we were growing up on the beach and, eating food off the land, and life was much simpler and cleaner, and, but these young ones growing up in this modern world, there's so much chaos and violence and trauma in their world. And over the last 5 years, particularly, what I've seen in a lot of the artists that come through Rako is there's so much trauma in these young people, and a lot of them are coming from spaces of, violence and quite traumatic spaces, and and it's just a reflection of really how chaotic our world is, and how disconnected and ungrounded our young people are, because they're not growing up with their community, and they're not growing up culturally, and they're not growing up with the land and with the ocean, and how to do things like how to fish and how to plant, like just those basic core values in life, and so with that, there's not an understanding on how to deal with the trauma and the violence that they're experiencing, so we've found that, but through the process of reconnecting in that creative space, where they're sitting with the elders and they're talking and they're hearing the stories and understanding where they're from, and like Yani said, that there's a solid ground and a solid place to go home to. That, like, no matter what happens in this world, if things fall apart in your home in Suva, that you really can actually go back to the island. Like, there's actually somebody who will take you in and nurture you and protect you and take care of you, and so part of our process has been that connection, and through a lot of our work, what we've found is that reconnection has started a process of healing. The process of creating a lot of our work is just as important as the end product, so like when we're creating our fashion line, like all of our girls are sitting around and they're sewing together, they're printing fabric together, and they're talking, and or they're weaving the neck pieces together, or in the costume making circles. And often what's happened during this time is that because people are feeling safe and comfortable, then a lot of the stories of trauma and the things that they're dealing with come out, so they always laugh that I have this big chair in my office in our studio in Raqqa. They call it, like the counseling chair, where everyone comes and has a good cry, or like, now we've been on Zoom and a lot of crying sessions. And so, but it's through that kind of creative process and that connecting and storytelling with elders that they then start feeling safe to be able to to open up, you know. And then once they've come through that process and then they're starting to create, they start to feel proud of themselves, they start to feel valuable. And then the reconnection back to the island is sort of like the, you know, as Vili said in his talk the other day, you know, that's like the gold. You know, you go back and you meet your family on the island, you go and you swim in that ocean, you climb the mountains, you know, and a lot of them come back completely, almost like cleansed, you know, and come back revitalized and energized, and come back really proud of where they're from. And you know, and one of our young ones who went back last year, you know, she came back and she's like, wow, I never realized how beautiful our stories were. And so now she's writing poetry, she's filmmaking, she's dancing, she's making costumes, you know. So just that connection back has transformed this young woman. And so now when you know, you see her on a lot of our photos, the chin is up, you know, the back is straight, and just really embracing, you know, her beauty as a young Rotuman woman, you know. And so I think that connection for our young people is so important in this time. And so, you know, I'm really grateful to a lot of the elders that have been really supportive and who've put their hands up and come to Raqqa and say, okay, I want to help. What can I do? What story can I tell? What dance can I teach? What mat can I show you guys to weave? And more, and you know, slowly more of the what I call our creative elders are coming to Raqqa. You know, like about a month ago, Makareta Moore, who, you know, who I'm related to, with family, we've grown up together. You know, she came and said, oh, I have a really amazing story. We should work together and create a theater work. I'm like, yes, let's do it. You know, like now she's storytelling with our young ones, and then we're developing a full theater work. And, you know, and part of my PhD, which I'm doing, we're creating a theater work with the around women's wisdom on the island. So, you know, working with the aunties, you know, so it's, yeah, it's a really special time, I think. And yeah, it's really, you know, I'm glad that I have the opportunity to provide this space for our young ones. I think it's really, really important in this time.
Absolutely. Wow. You know, you've just reminded us, you know, again, is what Professor Vilisoni said there on Monday, the importance of us valuing, yeah, our stories. And I like what you said earlier on, you know, it's like when you're touring overseas, you know, you're going to all these big countries and you're starting to recall and reflect on your Rotuman heritage, and appreciating it more. Yeah, so does that happen to you a lot now?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's pretty much over the last, you know, so years, and particularly, like, you know, as I started working more extensively internationally,
Yeah.
like when I came to Australia, I was one of the producers for the opening and closing ceremony for the Commonwealth Games, and then went on to work as producer at the Sydney Opera House. And so when you're in these really, you know, big spaces and you're working with the top artists in the world, and you see the work that they're doing and you think, wow, you know, our stories should be on this stage, you know, like, you know. And I always imagine like Vili and Manue and Pelu dancing, like all of us in Palau dancing. I think, Farah, this could be on the Sydney Opera House stage, you know. So I was like, I am going to get us on the Opera House stage. That is my mission. And so, you know, I pushed and I asked, and, you know, slowly like made friends, and, you know, and pitched, you know, what we were doing in Raqqa, and we got booked. And so we were the first, you know, Fiji Rotuman group to do a full 1 hour work at the Opera House, you know. And so that was a real highlight, just being and seeing the response from the crowd, like, wow, we never knew this country existed. And, you know, and we had, you know, Rotumans flew down from Brisbane, we had Rotumans flying up from Melbourne and Adelaide, and they were so proud to, you know, that they had people on the stage at the Opera House, you know. So yeah, and just that evokes so much more, you know. Other young people are like, oh wow, we're on that stage, I can do it too, you know. So it helps, you know, give people the, you know, courage to try something new as well, and know that they can get to that stage. They have to just be completely proud of what they do, persevere, be committed to their craft, you know, and as you were saying, you know, I drill them, and my team called me Mama Dragon, is my affectionate name. So, but then they get, you know, they see that the outcome of it when they get to those international stages, you know. Yeah.
Wow, absolutely. Well, you know, I think in any production, you know, there has to be, I think it's compulsory to have a mama dragon, you know, in the team, right? Just so to kind of, you know, raise the standard and making sure, you know, that you have that, you know, because you're on the international stage and the work that you do, Letila, you know, everyone just admire, yeah, the work that you for the Opera House and for the Commonwealth Games. How did that go?
Yeah, it was really exciting, you know. It was definitely a challenge. It was nice working with big budgets, which is good because then I didn't have to ask artists to do things for free, which is unfortunately sometimes, you know, when you're working in the industry, you know, you're literally all counting coins to get to the show. So it was nice to be able to pay artists properly and to accommodate them well and to look after them. And you know, it was a really incredible experience because one of my you know, one of the groups that are like my lifelong inspiration is the Bangara Dance Theatre. You know, and I got to work with their artistic director during the Commonwealth Games, so that was just like a highlight for me. It was like, you know, getting to know him well, and you know, now being on a first name basis, and you know, so it was a really huge highlight for me being able to be part of that team. There was only 6 of us that produced, you know, that were on the producing team under our 2 executive producers, and I had a cast of, I think, almost 1,500. So I looked after the cultural and First Nations segments in the opening and closing. And yeah, it was really incredible experience. Very tiring. Didn't sleep for a year, but
Wow, man, that's just amazing. I love the way you work as well, Letila, where you have, you know, these young people, and even, you know, your Rako team and the others as well, other artists in Australia, you know, who really admire and support the work that you do. Yeah, congratulations from all of us. And I understand in terms of you have something to show us with your line of your some of your fashion label that you have created there?
yeah, it's just the beginning. It's like in cultivation, but uh, yeah, it was inspired by a lot of Letila Rotuma's work and their conservation work on the island, and so, and also working with Neotero and hearing a lot of the ocean waste, the plastic in the ocean in the Pacific. So the new collection that I'm doing is completely eco-sustainable collection, and it's a mix of a swimwear and an active wear. And so the lycra that I'm using is made from recycled water bottles and fishing nets. So it's, you know, it's a process for me of, one, contributing to the cleanup of the ocean, but being able to produce, you know, sort of a fashion line that's not damaging to the earth, because the fashion industry can be is a, you know, huge contributor to pollution in the world. So yeah, that was sort of my little contribution to cleaning up our world. So yeah, hopefully that, I'm hoping to launch it in July, August. So in time for us to get on the plane to go back to Fiji, hopefully.
Yes. Oh, that is exciting. So, are you working on it by yourself, or is there a team that works with you, Letila?
I'm working on it with Yani predominantly. You know, so Yani does a lot of the print and painting on a lot of my fabrics, and a lot of the sort of designs. But I still also work quite closely with my Rako team, you know, informing me on the symbology and you know, what prints we're going to put on and on the fabric, because all of the prints that we develop are all inspired by, you know, the birds from the island, or inspired by one of the, you know, patterns that the elders talk to us about in the weaving, or patterns on a tree that they remember growing up. So all of the prints that we use have all been inspired by storytelling and you know, the patterns that come from the island, you know. So yeah, so it's definitely a collaborative work.
That is amazing. Yeah, that's wonderful. And you also mentioned, Letila, about your PhD research. How far are you going, and how is your experience so far?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's I'm in my second year now, and yeah, my PhD again was inspired by a lot of the conversations with Vili Herniko and with Ematama, and how with each of the passing of a lot of our elders, a whole library goes, so my PhD really is about working through theater and through dance on how to almost not archive, but almost gather our knowledge and continue the practice. So a lot of the art forms that have, over the years have stopped being practiced. A lot of them abolished during the sort of missionary colonization time in the 1800s. A lot of things that were no longer practiced, so it's doing a bit of a mapping through a lot of the museums and the archives on any physical sort of artifacts that remain in the museums, but also looking through archives at any sketches or notes that people have made on what we used to have, and then through a theater work, which is the end of my PhD, is bringing back some of those practices. And yeah, it's been really exciting to be able to spend time focusing on that knowledge, and really allocating time in my crazy schedule to actually have quiet time to read and to talk with elders, and to talk with artists and to talk with my family about what they remember that they used to practice and they used to do. And yeah, so it's a process of building my knowledge, cultural knowledge and my creative skills, but also creating a ceremony of remembrance through theater. So a lot of the art forms that we used to have were based around ceremonies for the Sao or the king. And so once that sort of monarchy was abolished on the island, a lot of those practices diminished. So it's like looking at, okay, we don't have a monarchy anymore, so is there another ceremony, another story that we can create through theater and through dance that we can revitalize some of those art forms, costumes and adornment pieces. And yeah, so it's been a really wonderful process, and which is part of my trip back to Auckland in July. So the intention was that this year I was going to be on the island and working on this project on the island, but then with COVID we can't get back home. So I've had to slightly adjust my project and working with my elders and family in New Zealand, which would have been part of the process anyway, because a lot of my close family are New Zealand based, so that they would have been the first stop anyway. But yeah, this project will focus a lot on working with them. And Vili is my mentor for my PhD, so he's linked into all my big ideas and crazy ideas too.
Oh wow! And I know tonight there's a lot of your family connecting in from New Zealand. So I can see Thierry, Christopher, Williame connecting here. Madam Marietta Ringamoto. So there's quite a few who are saying BULA Vinaka to all our Ratumans listening in, particularly those of you from Aotearoa. So yeah, I'm just very excited about what your result of your PhD will be, and what are your plans looking to the future. What is your vision about Rako and your own plans, if you have any projects in the pipeline, Letila?
Yeah, well, I'm really obsessed at the moment in making theater, and so that's, pretty much for the next few years, a lot of my focus will be on creating work. was in Wellington last year and spent, before COVID hit, and spent a lot of time with Nina Nawalwalo. You know, so working with her and working with Vili Heroniko on, you know, sort of a next generation of theatre makers. And so we've got 2 theatre works in the pipeline, two that are under Rako banner, and then one that we're working on with Makareta Mua, which is coming up, and then the film that we're doing with Niatero. I know my husband is working with our musicians to create a new album. So they're, you know, they're sort of doing a lot of that creative online in the hope that we can record together in December if the borders open up. But yeah, you know, for me, it's really about just continuing to develop our Rako space, continuing to develop our knowledge. And for me, it's really continuing to build the relationships and my professional relationships here in the industry, so that I can provide those platforms for other artists, not just for Rako, but, you know, other artists that are up and coming. You know, some of the Rako artists that have, you know, progressed and flown the nest and, you know, become independent artists. So, you know, helping them to then cultivate their careers in the industry. And yeah, it's a really great time. It's an exciting time. I'm doing a lot of work with First Nations artists here in Australia as well, which is, you know, been beautiful, having their trust to help them cultivate their work. Yeah, so it's just, you know, really continuing to solidify my practice and ground myself in my culture, and, you know, and bring my kids up to, you know, be proud of their culture and to be free to dance and connect with their family and their community. And yeah, so it's an ongoing process, and somewhere in all of that I find time to sleep.
Wow, it's just so beautiful. I like the way you know, you work in terms of, you know, bringing in all the, you know, your culture and your heritage and what you love into your work, you know, and that just makes your work and your research very exciting, you know, because you're not putting them into little boxes, but for some reason they kind of morph and come in and out in terms of, you know, your creative process. And of course, you know, Rako, you know, being there as that space that you work with. Wow. Yeah, congratulations. And we just look forward to see more and more of Rako, you know, in the future. And I'm glad that COVID is hopefully, you know, disappearing. I'm glad that Australia, New Zealand is, they've got their bubbles opened up now, so you can travel between the 2 countries. Yeah, and this is just so exciting indeed, Letila. Will you be connecting to our any of your the Rako members in Fiji? Will they be able to connect in, or?
I'm not sure. I was trying to get them to come in and finish.
Yeah, no worries.
Song, but I don't know how they were in a bit of a lockdown. So yeah, our team are a bit scattered. We've got not able to get flights back, and so people get scattered everywhere. It's,
yeah.
sorry, we hope to finish with the song, but
yeah, no, not a problem. I'm sure, you know, there will always be, you know, opportunities down the line, you know, in terms of getting them when the lockdown is finished. I would love to host them on this program, and then, you know, definitely we can be in touch and see when they have some spare time, or if they're together in Suva, and they can be able to connect through Zoom, and I can be able to host them on this program. But just in terms of, you know, like, you know, your creative works and the work that you're doing there in Australia, any advice maybe for those who are listening in, or those who will listen to this interview later on, for young ones particularly who want to move into the creative arts pathway? What would be 1 or 2 advice you would like to give to them, Letila?
I think, you know, particularly in this current time with COVID, you know, the creative sector has been hit really, really hard. And, you know, really over the last year, our main focus has just literally been trying to keep food on our artists' table. You know, but, you know, our team have survived because they're innovators and they adapt and they change and they make, you know, they really work hard to make changes. And, you know, so, you know, in this current environment, you know, success comes from hard work. It comes from really being committed to your craft, being proud of your difference, you know, not trying to do what's trendy on the international platform, but, you know, really being true to your own culture, your own heritage, embracing your language, embracing your elder stories in your craft, and really being honest and true to that. Because, you know, a lot of these festival directors and producers and, you know, gallery curators, they've seen everything. They can spot the fake ones always. So, you know, I always find that, you know, if you're a really genuine artist and you're really passionate about what you do and you're really connected and you've done your homework, you've done your research, you know, that will, you know, that will help you be successful. And, you know, and at the end of the day, it's perseverance and striving always for excellence, and being true to who you are as an artist. And yeah, it's a tough time to be an artist, really, really tough time to be an artist. You know, but it just takes courage to keep going and perseverance and, you know, and connecting in with your community, reaching out to your elders, you know, getting their support and their guidance. And yeah, I think, you know, if you've got that, then you will get through the hard times, you'll push through the challenges, and you know, come out in a good way. But yeah, it is a difficult time, but it's, you know, it's a commitment and you know, being really true to who you are as an artist.
Wow, yes, Vinaka, that was yeah, some real amazing comments you mentioned there. I think I was writing here, be real, you know, be genuine and be courageous. I think those are, you know, really good words of advice. As you said, you know, even this time with COVID-19 or even before COVID-19, the pathway of artists has always been, you know, very difficult. But I think over the years, there has been some you know, huge support, you know, for many of the works of the artists, particularly in New Zealand, you know, where they, you know, you have Creative New Zealand, and you mentioned about Nina Nawalwalo, you know, our sister there in Wellington, who, you know, loves to collaborate with, you know, many artists. And I'm so glad that you two are working together, particularly in the theater. And so that's something that we look forward to for that Letila. So to end our Talanoa today, actually, I don't want to end it. I just want to add another hour. It just sounds so nice, very refreshing, Letila. You know, just hearing your stories and how you kind of, you know, operate as Letila, and then you have Rako, and you have other subsidiary projects that are happening, you know, at the same time, and you're able to manage it as well. But I think at this point, I would like to acknowledge your dear husband, who, you know, is always, you know, behind the scene, working away and supporting you. So maybe at this time, I'll allow you to take this moment to acknowledge those who have supported you along the way. This is your time, Letila.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you know, with all that we do, there's you can never do anything without the support of a good family behind you. You know, my parents have been my rock all my life, and, you know, always encouraged me to try something new, never to be afraid, be brave always. And so, you know, they've had many times where I'm like crying on the kitchen floor because I can't do something, I'm too tired, or, you know, so it's, you know, that strong family behind you like really makes a difference. And, you know, my siblings and yeah, my husband, I think he's used to the, the craziness and the happiness and the joy and the, we do everything together. We create, we look after our kids together, we run a home, we run a company, so it's definitely about trying to find those balances with each other, and Yani, my eldest, is, my sort of creative partner. So we've had a strong journey together, and our whole Rako family, like all of the mums and the parents who come and they make tea and they support the kids, and they've all been there building that infrastructure behind all of us, so it's that community is so important. And like you said, having that sort of nurturing space, like with the Ratuman community in New Zealand, having those really beautiful safe spaces that then generate and cultivate so much beauty. And it's those people that are, in the background, the moms and the dads and the aunties and the uncles that are doing all the making food and making sure you stay nourished and protected, that really help us to do the work that we do. So yeah, I'm so grateful for all the love and the support that people give us through all the hard times. Even those who, those people who come and give us a bit of criticism, like it all is part and parcel of our journey. And we're very grateful to the whole community and to everyone in our lives that, provides us with that support and protection, as well as like okay, you're not doing that right. I mean, that's always an important part of our journey too, so yeah, just, big foyaxia and Vinaka vakalevu to all our family and everyone who's contributed not only to my journey, but to my family and to our Rako family. We really appreciate it, and we hope that we are always able to find ways to give back and acknowledge. So all of the creative work that we do, everything that we produce, it's for all of those people who have been behind us. So we don't do it for ourselves, we do it for the love of our family and our community.
So wow, beautiful, beautiful words, Letila. And I think it, comes down to that quality of humility, the humbleness that you would have to, hear criticisms and welcome them. At the same time, and when you actually accept it and learn from it, you become better, yeah, and you learn from it, and especially your young crew who are supporting you for Rako Pasefika. And another thing I want to mention as well, it's really great to have platforms such as Rako, and also after talking to Sachiko for VO, because I can see this, that these are wonderful templates for governments to acknowledge the arts. That the arts, they can also be platforms for, as you've said it a few times in our Talanoa, that we can put food on the table, through your music, through your dance, through your design, through poetry, through, the list goes on, even weaving. It's kind of like through Rako, you are bringing in two worlds, right? From Ratuma, and also the urban life of the young Ratumans who are part of Rako, and validating that as well, right? So you validating their life. If they live in Rewanga, that's fine. But also at the same time, connecting back to, Malhaha, or connecting back to Noatau, that's fine as well. But if you bring it together and acknowledging it on this space for Rako through creative arts, that's amazing. And I'm a champion of the arts, and I hope that my platform, will be able to highlight, these amazing templates, such as VO and with Rako, and allowing our young ones, like as you were saying, I was really touched by, how you were saying that that through Rako there's a healing process that is amazing. And sometimes when you kind of try and put some numbers to it, like to make it maybe something that the Bureau of Statistics, wanting this figure or this number, it's really hard because it's more emotive, right? Rather than, having a number to say this is $50,000 or $150,000 or whatever the number that they're going for. So I just want to congratulate you Letila, and your amazing team and your family on both sides, from home, from the Mitchell side, as well as your dear husband, who's always there supporting you to make your dreams come true. And I know there's more dreams to be fulfilled in the months and years to come. Yes, Vinaka vakalevu, to you, Letila. Any last word that you want to say? Because there's more people still listening here. Vinaka vakalevu, Manua Vilisoni. Yes, I'm just reading out some names. Luisa Antonio, Mata Howard, Mary Makrita, all connecting from here. Maret Ringamoto, Vinaka vakalevu, Thierry. So lots and lots of them. Makarita Eresito as well. So over to you. Any one-liner or any other word of advice or anything from Ratuma you want to leave for our listeners, Vinaka?
Again, just a big thanks to everyone, and stay connected, stay together, support your artists as much as you can, watch them, encourage them, protect them in whatever way you can. There's a lot of people suffering out there, so wrap around love to all the artists out there, and big thank you to everybody who supports the artists in your family by buying their artwork or going to their concert, or even just buying a costume. Makes a big difference to their lives. And yeah, I'm very grateful for everything that I've been given, and just always hopeful for providing more platforms for our people. And I really look forward to seeing my family in New Zealand soon, and hopefully Fiji. I really miss home. So, love to everyone in Fiji. Please be safe. Thank you so much, Tarisi, for your constant support and love over the years. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the Talanoa. We definitely have a lot more catch-ups needed.
Yeah, definitely. So Vinaka vakalevu. So from all of us here in Hawaii, we wishing you all the very best, Letila, and also for the launch in July and August, I think, and also your travel to Aotearoa. All the very best, and I will try and catch up with you. Maybe when you come back from New Zealand, we can have another Talanoa.
Yes, and love to everyone on the chat tonight, Manu in Dubai, and everybody around the world who's connected in.
Yes. Yeah, Vinaka vakalevu, Hanisiof to everyone. Loloma Levu from Hawaii, Vinaka vakalevu Sarah. And yeah, so we look forward to the Ratuma Day next week, and the Ratuma Language Week in Aotearoa. I think it's going to be officially launched on Sunday. At the Auckland Museum. So Fesaitu Solomoni was sharing that. So for those of you who are logging in today, the Ratuma Language Week is next week. And I think there's an online, there's a Facebook program that you can find, and there are daily programs that you can log into. There will be things you can watch also via Zoom. So try and like their page, and then you'll see all the programs that they're doing every day. So we just look forward to that. Okay, so Vinaka vakalevu Sar Letila, all the very best, and loloma to you in Brisbane. Yes, Vinaka, thanks, yeah. Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Vinaka vakalevu for supporting our Talanoa with Letila, and wish you all the very best in supporting the Ratuma Language Week, which is next week. The launch is going to be on Sunday, the 9th, and the Ratuma Language Week is going to be for the whole week. So it's going to be from the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and I think 15th is going to be the closing as well. So as I was saying, if you're interested in knowing more about the actual event, go on Facebook. There is a program that the Auckland Museum and the Auckland Ratuma community have put together. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be talks and lots of events as well over there. And I know New Zealand, they don't have a strict lockdown as what is happening around the world. So Aotearoa is taking the lead. So I wish I'm there. because, you know, everything is kind of normal. Everybody's going to school, everybody's going to work, and the Ratuma Language Week is going to be celebrated and launched at the Auckland Museum, as well as in Te Papa Museum in Wellington as well. That's what I've heard through Fesaitu Solomone. Vinaka vakalevu Sara, thank you so much for supporting the Talanoa session with Letila Mitchell, and we wish her and the Rako team all the very best. And I will see you all tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow with Happy. Yeah, so Hapfeld Hoda. So I will be talking to him tomorrow. So I think it'll be same time, no, 8 o'clock tomorrow, Fiji time. So Vinaka vakalevu Sara Luisa, Antonio, Vinaka vakalevu Makarita Eresito, thank you so much for connecting in. Asinate, Baseru, Vinaka vakalevu Nasema Mai, and Fuatayan. Yeah, Vinaka vakalevu Sara, and Madam Mareta Ringamoto, Vinaka vakalevu for always supporting the Talanoa with Dr. T. Naka Eleno Servato, Vinaka vakalevu Sara Nasema Mai, and Viliame Wangalaivi. Vinaka Nabitoko. Nelsa Vakumari Chukayani ni Mata.